Let me take the attendance at the start of the class. Gaurav Agarwal, Gautam Godra, Hemant Kumar Khatik, Matang Sharma,
Yes, sir.
Parth Narendra Bhai, Pushpendra Pal Singh,
Sir. Yes, sir.
Rakesh Raika, Rohan Modi, Sandeep
Present,
Singh,
sir.
and
Yes, sir.
Shaurya
Yes,
Dixit.
sir.
Manan Goyal also in the class,
Yes, sir.
and Gaurav Agarwal too. Okay, so let's start the class now today. So today we will be studying. Just a moment. Yes. So today we will be studying the breach of contract, the remedies for breach of contract, right? So yesterday we just went through certain things which I will be revising again for all of you today. Okay, then so yesterday we studied about the discharge and termination of contract. So there are six modes of discharge of contract: performance, mutual consent, lapse of time, operation of law, impossibility of performance, and finally the breach of contract. So these five things, that is performance, mutual consent, lapse of time, operation of law, and impossibility of performance, and this particular things means the contract are actually means both the parties have either agreed either mutually or by operation of law, or they have to agree because it was impossible to conduct. But finally the last one, which is breach of contract. So breach of contract is something which actually attracts penalty. So none of these 1 to 5 attracts any type of penalty, but breach of the contract actually it attracts a lot of penalties. So we will be studying this breach of contract today. That what are the remedies available to the people, those who have breached the contract, or those who have not able to fulfill the contract, or those who have totally told that the contract will not be fulfilled. Okay, so that is called breach. Breach means breaking. They are breaking the contract, and breaking is not at all possible. So breach of contract is of two types, that is actual breach and anticipatory breach. And actual breach is that at the time of the contract, when the time of the performance of the contract, the party, any of the party, promisor or promisee, have actually refused to uh, perform their part of contract. And in anticipatory breach, before the due date, well in advance, they communicate that they will not be performing the contract. So this is about the breach of contract, and I have explained you anticipatory breach and this all yesterday. So today we will be studying the remedies for breach of contract. So where the contract is broken, the injured party has several course of action open to him. The appropriate remedy in any case will depend upon the subject matter of the contract and the nature of breach. Means it is not like that all breaches are not equal. So it has to be seen that to what extent the party has got to damages. So to the extent the parties have got their damages, the breach will be the remedies for breach of the contract will be awarded. In case the breach of contract, the injured party may, now these are the course of action: resign the contract and refuse further performance of the contract, and sue for damages. It can also sue for the specific performance of the contract, or compel the other party to perform the contract as such through court, and sue for injunction to restrain the breach of a negative term. Okay, so injunction can also come up, and then sue for the quantum merit, means the partial fulfillment or the remaining fulfillment of the contract. So first of all is the rescission of the contract. When the party to the contract has broken the contract, the other party may treat the contract as rescinded, and he is absolved from his obligation under the contract. So first most thing is that as soon as the other party, one party has communicated to other that will not be performing the contract, the other party is also discharged from performance of his part of contract. So under section 65, when a party treats the contract as rescinded, he may himself liable to restore any benefits he has received under the contract to the party from whom such benefits were received. So in that case, if the contract is rescinded, so in that case, the party who has rescinded the contract, he has to or she has to just make good, or you can say restore the things which he has taken. For example, somebody has taken something in advance for the performance of the contract, and then the contract is not performing, so it is his duty to give back the amount of give back the amount of the advance which he has taken. Okay, so under section 75 of Indian Contract Act, if a person rightfully resigns a contract, he is entitled to compensation for any damages which he has sustained through the non-fulfillment of the contract by the other party. So rescission of contract happens when the one party refuses. Then the aggrieved party, the party who was ready to fulfill his part of contract, he is actually entitled for compensation by the other party who has actually breached the contract. Okay, so such damages are to be paid by the party who has actually breached the contract. So section 64 deals with the consequences of rescission of voidable contracts, that is where there is flaw in consent of one party to the contract. Okay, so this is section 64 deals with the rescission of voidable contracts. So under this section, when a person at whose opinion the contract is voidable resigns the contract, the other party thereto need not perform any promise therein contained in which he is the promiser. Okay, so this is something which is related to when the contract is voidable at the option of one party and that party has resigned it. So other party need not to undertake his part of promise at all. Okay, the party resigning the voidable contract shall if he has received any benefit thereunder from other party to such contract, restore such benefit so far as may be to the person from whom it was received. So it says that if the party is something, I have already given you example of the advance taken or some benefit if it has been taken. So the benefit should be restored. Restored means it should go to the person to whom it belongs to. So there should not be any unjust enrichment. Okay, so any contract which is being received has to be again given back to the person from whom it has been received by the person who is actually not performing the contract, or even the other person also. So even the other person, those who actually wants the performance, and the promiser who is not performing the contract, the promisee is having all the right to receive the benefit which he has extended to the other party. Okay, next is sue for damages. So first is rescission of the contract. The rescission of the contract is as a consequence of rescission of the contract, what will happen? The other party is free to perform his obligation and has to restore any benefit which one party has received from other in case the contract would have been proceeded further. Okay, next is sue for damages for the breach of contract. So under section 73 of Indian Contract Act, when the contract has been broken, a party who suffers by such breach is entitled to receive from the party who has broken the contract a compensation for any loss or damage caused to him thereby, which naturally arose in the usual course of things from such breach, or which the party knew when they made the contract to be likely to result from the breach of it. So this is a complicated language of law which over here is written. So what does it say is that if any person who is breaching the contract, or you can say a person who is responsible for the breach of the contract, so that person must pay a compensation to other person. Means suppose the promiser has made a breach of contract, the promiser will pay to the promisee certain damages which otherwise would not have occurred had the contract been properly executed. Okay, suppose for example A has actually agreed to supply sugarcane to B for his sugar mill. Okay, and because of and there was a price which was fixed also prior to that when the sugarcane will be grown in the fields. This will be the price at which the sugarcane will be sold to the uh, mm, uh, factory. Okay, so because the price increased, the person actually refused to sell the sugarcane. Now what happens? The contract has happened between the sugarcane vendor and the factory owner at suppose for example 10 rupees per kg. Okay, now the price has increased from 10 rupees to 15 rupees in the market. Now what will happen? The person who has actually has contracted with this party has to bear 5 rupees extra from the market because he will be purchasing it from somewhere else. So from that person, from that place from where he will be purchasing, he will get the sugarcane at a price 5 rupees costlier than what was contracted, which has been broken. So had this contract would not have been broken, he would never have suffered such loss of rupees 5 rupees per kg from getting the sugar canes from the market. So, so this person should not only pay this amount, but will also pay certain extra amount as a compensation. Okay, so this is a natural loss. Now, at the time of entering into a contract, these things were known to both the parties that if the price will increase, right? If the price will increase, what will happen? The other party who is to receive this will be a sufferer. What would have happened if the price would have decreased? Then the this person who is supplying would have been a gainer, right? Because he has actually entered into a price of 10 rupees. Now the price has decreased to 8 rupees. Still, this person would have gained rupees 2 because the price has decreased in the market at the time of execution of contract. So such type of things have to be, and such type of damages are to be paid by a person who has actually breached the contract to the person who has suffered the losses because of such breach. Okay, so such compensation is not to be given for any remote or indirect loss or damage sustained by the reason of breach. So they, if there is any indirect damage, then it is. But this is a direct damage, which which example I have given you. So damages for breach of contract. Now let us this is one of the very good and leading case. The foundation of the claim of damages rests in the celebrated case. Celebrated is the leading case. Okay, the facts of this case were as follows. There was a breakdown of a shaft in A's mill. Okay, so A was having some mill and the shaft actually broke down. And because of this shaft broke down, the work in A's mill actually stopped. So he delivered the shaft to B, a common carrier, to be taken to the manufacturer to copy and make a new one. So he actually delivered the broken shaft to B, who is a carrier. Carrier means he is a transporter. So he has to carry this shaft to the manufacturer, and for getting the new one means to just get the copy of to just get prepared the copy of this shaft and to get it as soon as possible to the A's mill so that he can restore his working. So A did not make known to B that delay would result in the loss of profits. Now what happens? A has not told B that if you will delay, I will be at loss. Now what happened? Because of some neglect on the part of D, D is a carrier. So because of some neglect on the part of D, the delivery of the shaft was delayed in transit beyond the reasonable time. Now as a result, what happened? The mill was idle for a longer period of time than it would otherwise have been had there been no such delay. Means now here the mill was lying idle because nothing was there. So there was loss of even the salaries were paid also free of cost to the people, those who are working. There were other things also. Even the orders also got delayed for the factory which the factory has received. So all this happened. So it was held that B is not liable for such loss of profit during the period of delay, as the circumstances communicated to A did not show that the delay in the delivery of the shaft would entail the loss of profits to the mill, because he has never told, he has never conveyed to B that what will happen if you will if the things are unreasonably delayed. So the contract was only to give this to the manufacturer for getting a copy of the same, and there was nothing else. So had there been a clause which would have expressed, which would have been expressed in a way that had if there is a delay, there will be a loss, and who will bear the loss if the delay will be beyond the reasonable time. So there was no such clause. So if there is no such clause or nothing has been communicated, so the other person who has actually made the delay or because of whom the delay was there may not be held responsible for any such indirect losses. Okay, so this is a very good and leading case where the damages which are proposed to happen should be communicated well in advance until and unless it is given in the contract. So if the damages are not being communicated properly, then there would be loss, and that loss will not be borne by the promisor. Okay, so let us see the types of damages. So there are two types of damage. One is liquidated damages, another is unliquidated damages. So where the contracting parties agree in advance about the amount payable in event of breach, thus the payable amount is called liquidated damages. So when there is a clause of paying certain amount, if there is a breach of contract, then it will be called liquidated damages, where the amount of compensation claimed for breach of contract is left to be assessed by the court. The damages are called unliquidated damages. Liquidated itself means the things which can be converted into money or money is worth. What is liquid? Liquid is the money. Liquid is the cash. That's why liquid ratio, you might have studied this liquid ratio in your 12th class also, and maybe in your first year, or maybe you be studying it now in financial management or management accounting also. So liquidity is related to money or money is worth. So those things which can be converted or which can be easily be quoted in the form of money are called liquidated damages, and those damages which cannot be itself converted, but the it is left to the court to decide the damages, then it will be called unliquidated damages. So so let us just discuss more about unliquidated damages. So there are following kinds of liquidated damages, that is general or ordinary damages. Next is special damages. C is exemplary, or you can say punitive damages, and nominal damages. So there are four types of unliquidated damages. So let us just go through one by one. So what are ordinary damages? So these are restricted to pecuniary compensation to put the injured party in the position he would have been had the contract been performed. So in the recent example which I have given you, that the sugarcane was supplied by A to B and at the rate of rupees 10, but there was a breach in contract, and the compensation, if fixed, would be rupees 5,000, rupees 5 rupees per kg extra. So this is something which is called ordinary damages, because of this damages, the parties, both the parties will be, or you can say the aggrieved party will be at par. Had the damages, had the breach of contract would not have been, what would not have happened. Okay, so it is the estimated amount of loss actually incurred. Thus, it applies only to proximate consequence of the breach of contract, and the remote consequences are not generally regarded. Okay, so proximate consequences means which is means you can say patent, means on the face are there. So latent damages, or you can say the remote consequences or the other consequences will not be uh, will not be allowed. Okay, will not be there. Okay, for example, in a contract of sale of goods, the damages payable would be difference between the contract price and the price at which the goods are available at the date of breach. Just now I've given you the example of this only, of this sugarcane supplying. Okay, unliquidated damages, you can say these are the special damages. Okay, so special damages are those unliquidated damages. In unliquidated damages, special damages are those resulting from the breach of contract under some peculiar circumstances. If at the time of entering into the contract the party has notice of special circumstances special circumstances which makes the special loss like the likely result of the breach of the ordinary course of things, then upon his breaking the contract and the special loss following this breach, he will be required to make good that special loss. Okay, so special damages are which are resulting from the breach of contract under some certain peculiar or certain special circumstances. If at the time of entering into a contract the party notices such special damages, then such special damages are likely to be the breach of the ordinary course of things. Okay, then on breaking such a contract, such special loss following the breach will be required to make good as a special. So special damages, as the name suggests, it is the damages in some special circumstances. Just wait better. Yeah, excuse me. So special damages, as the name suggests, are the damages which happen under certain special circumstances. Only those in that, then these are called special damages. For example, A delivered goods to the railway administration to be carried to a place where the exhibition was being held and told the goods clerk that if the goods did not reach the destination on the stipulated date, he would suffer a special loss. So the goods reached late and hence he was entitled to the special losses. Okay, so had good not has good because those he has actually well in advance communicated about the special damages which could happen. Next is exemplary damages. So these damages are awarded to punish the defendant and not as a rule granted in case of breach of contract. In the two cases, however, the court may award such damages, namely the breach of promise to marry and wrongful dishonor of customer's check by the banker. So in these two cases, it is there. So in breach of promise to marry, the amount of the damages will depend on the extent of the injury to the party's feelings. Okay. So in the banker's case, the smaller the amount of the check is dishonored, larger will be the damages at the credit of the customer would be injured in a far greater measure if the check for a small amount is wrongfully dishonored. Okay, so in both these cases, now to what extent? Now this is if you see the case of marriage. So in breach of promise to marry, the amount of damages will depend on the extent of the injury to the parties. So how that this extent to the injury of the parties' feelings will be calculated. So it totally depends on the circumstances, and the court decides it that what can be the consequences of breach of marriage. Okay. Is nominal damages. So nominal damages consist of small token award, example a rupee or even 25 paisa, where there has been an infringement of contractual rights, but no actual loss has been suffered. These damages are awarded to establish a right to decree for the breach of contract. These, as the name suggests, these are the nominal damages. Nominal means it is just a very small amount, very small amount, just in order to say that there has been certain damages. This amount is awarded by the court in certain circumstances. Otherwise, because of such breach, nothing has actually happened. So this is these are the all the examples of, you can say, the unliquidated damages. Next is your liquidated damages and penalty, where the contracting party fix at the time of contract the amount of damages that would be payable in case of breach. In English law, the question may arise whether the term amounts to liquidated or a penalty. The Court of England usually give effect to liquidated damages, but they always relieve against the penalty. So this is something which is because Liquidated damages are the damages which, as I've already told you, it is a certain thing which is well in advance decided. Okay, so the two test, that is where the amount fixed is genuine pre-estimate of the loss of breach, it is liquidated damages, and be allowed if the amount is fixed without any regard of the probable loss but is intended to frighten the party and to prevent him from the committing the breach, it is penalty. Now what happens, this is something which is related to what, when a liquidated damages will be treated as a penalty, on when it will be called a penalty. Even sometimes the penalty is also decided well in advance. For example, certain in certain cases, uh, the liquidated damages are the calculated damages, the damages which are calculated had there been a breach of. For example, let me just give an example, the same example I'm taking, the sugarcane one. So there can be a clause in the contract that if the party breaches the contract, then the party who is breaching the contract will compensate the promisee with the amount which is a difference in the amount of the market rate and the decided rate. Now here nobody knows that what will be the market rate at that time. It can be 17 also, it can be 15 also, it can be anything else also. Okay, and it is other way around also, means if the accepting party refuses to accept the delivery because of change in prices, because the price now has become 8 rupees. Now I have contracted to get the things at 10 rupees. Now on the date of the execution of contract, the market price is 8 rupees. So if I will purchase it for 8 rupees, I will save 2 rupees. But the party who has actually contracted me to supply the sugar cane has also not contacted anyone else to supply the sugarcane at rupees 10. So this party will be at loss. So the promisee will also pay the promiser the amount which is rupees 2 per kg as a compensation. So here, if you see, this is the liquidated damages because the calculation is already been done, and this, the intention of the party is to make good the loss. That's it. Okay, so this is something which is called liquidated damages. So at the same time, for example, three friends are there. They are regularly coming to the university. So one friend is always, just is having a habit of coming late. So both of the friends have just told that if you will come late, you will pay a penalty of rupees, suppose for example, 100 in the corpus of the petrol sharing which we are doing. So just actually all of them will reach to the university well on time. Okay, and they will not miss the class also, that is okay. But just in order to threaten one that okay, if I will not come on time, I have to pay the penalty, he is actually, this type of thing is actually called penalty, and this is not a compensation, this is not a damages, this is nothing like that, because compensation or damages are the things for which the other party has actually lost certain things. But when the penalty is there, it is just in order to save the other party to or you can say motivate the other party to at least honor the contract. Okay, so there is a difference between the damages and the penalty. So both can be fixed well in advance. Fixing of both damages and penalty well in advance will not make penalty liquidate damage or liquidate damage a penalty. Okay, it has to be seen. The genuineness means to what extent one thing is able to what extent it is a compensation or damages, or to what extent it is a penalty. Penalties are actually just in order to frighten the party, in order to threaten the party to prevent him from committing the breach of contract only. So this is to be seen. Okay. In Indian law, there is no such difference here, because British law actually there is a difference. So Indian law, there is no such difference in liquidated damages and penalty. Section 74 provides for reasonable compensation up to stipulated amount, whether it is by way of liquidated damages or penalty whatsoever. So in India, it is seen as the one and the same thing. For example, A borrows rupees 500 from B and promises to pay rupees 1000 if he fails to repay rupees 500 on stipulated date. Now, on A's failure to repay on the given date, B is entitled to recover from A such compensation not exceeding rupees 1000, as the court may consider it a court may consider unreasonable. Okay. Now here, if you see, for paying rupees 5,000, 1,000 has been imposed as a penalty. Or here, if you see, this is a penalty of paying rupees 500, but this, don't you think this is unreasonable? Because this is unreasonable, the court may not allow such things. Okay, court may not allow such thing because this seems to be totally unreasonable. So this is the case of Union of India versus Raman Iron Foundry, because there was a penalty. Just actually they might have done this as a penalty that if you will not pay well on time, there will be another 1,000 you have to pay extra. But this, who will pay this 1,000 for paying rupees 500, right? So this is something very unreasonable. Okay. Next is the specific performance of the contract. Okay, so it means that the actual carrying out by the parties for the contract and its proper case, the court will insist upon the parties carrying out this agreement. Where the party fails to perform the contract, the court may, at its discretion, order the defendant to carry out his undertaking according to the terms of the contract. A decree is an order. A decree for specific performance may be granted in addition to some damages also. Because why he has to come to the court? Because the person has actually breached the contract. So the court may order the other party to perform the contract as such and also pay some compensation to the aggrieved party. So specific performance is usually granted in contracts connected with land, example purchase of a particular plot or a house to take debentures in the company, something like that. So in case of sale of goods, it will only be granted if the goods are unique and cannot be purchased in the market. For example, a particular race horse or one of the special value of the party swing by the reason of personal or family association or heirloom or something like that. Means if it is a something special type of thing. Okay, for example, that a particular horse will win in the race and I have contacted to some person to supply me, to provide me that horse for rupees 20,000, and that person has agreed. And then afterwards he also got to know that there is a race going on, so he thought, okay, I will make this horse run in the race and win a lottery of rupees 1 lakh rupees over there, for which I'm selling the horse for only for rupees 20,000. So he breached the contract and never supplied the horse. But in this case, before the race, if the other person, aggrieved party, files a suit against him for specific performance of the horse, what is the specific performance in this case? The delivery of the horse by the horse owner to the promisee is the specific performance. The court may order for the specific performance. Okay, so this is the case. So specific performance will not be. Now, what are the circumstances in which the specific performance will not be ordered? Where the monetary compensation is adequate remedy. Now, if the monetary compensation is adequate remedy, the specific performance may not be ordered by the court. Where the court cannot supervise the execution of contract, example, a building of a building contract or something like that. So a court cannot, supervise that whether the contract will be executed in the way it is performed or not. Okay, suppose the quality of building with which a contractor has said. So in that case, also the court the specific performance may not be ordered by the court, and in that case the compensation may be ordered by the court as such. Where the contract is of suppose some personal service, for example, painting, drawing one thing. So this is something which if a person has refused, the court cannot actually enforce the other person to prepare a picture, because this is of some personal service, or you can say the specific performance in this case cannot be exercised as such. Next is where one of the party is a minor. So minor's contract you cannot go for a specific performance. Even court cannot just compel the minor to enter into a contract in case of specific performance. So this is about the specific performance, and when court cannot be ordered, it is given over here, and when it can be done, it is also there. I have explained you with the help of examples too. Okay, injunction. Injunction is an order of the court restraining a person from doing a particular act. You might have listened about stay order. Court says stay leke aana. So this injunction is actually the stay. So it is a mode of securing the specific performance of a negative term of the contract. That is where he is doing something which he promises not to do and he has started doing it. The court may, in this discretion, issue an order to the defendant, restrain him from doing what he promised not to do. For example, I have just promised that, okay, you pay me rupees 1 lakh and I will not open the window on the other side. And the party has agreed. So I have taken rupees 1 lakh, but after 2 years, I started constructing a window to be opened on the other side. So what the other party will do, from whom I have taken rupees 1 lakh, he will file a case against me in the court of law and he will grant an injunction against me that and stop me to or restrain me not to open the window on that side which I have told that I will not open. Okay, so in this case there is something which is negating, which is I will not do, and the person has started doing. The order from the court can actually restrict that person not to do which he is agreed not to do. Okay, so this is also, so injunction may be prohibitory or mandatory, or even it can be for do or and not to do also. In prohibitory, the court restrains the commission of wrongful act, whereas in mandatory, it restrains the continuance of the wrongful commission. Okay, so this is, suppose for example, one person is throwing some garbage outside the window daily, so he can be told not to do that. Okay, so this is also one of the, and or even he may be mandated to do certain things which otherwise he is not doing because of the terms of the contract. So in both the cases, the injunction can be brought. So there is a case of Lumley versus Wagner. So W agreed to sing at L's theater and nowhere else. So this is a contract that you will sing only in my theater and you will sing nowhere else. So W, in the breach of contract with L, entered into a contract to sing for Z. Here, although W could not be compelled to sing at L's theater, yet she could be restrained by injunction from singing for Z also. Okay, so the court can, this W L can bring a suit against W that if you are not singing at my, so I will not let you sing anywhere else also. So he may bring an injunction in favor of himself against W to perform anywhere else too. Okay, so this is what is called injunction. Next remedy is quantum merit. The expression quantum merit literally means as much as earned or reasonable remuneration. So it is used where a person claims reasonable remuneration for the services rendered by him when there was no express promise to pay the definite remuneration. Thus, the law implies reasonable compensation for the services rendered by a party if there are circumstances showing that these are to be paid for. So general rule is that where a party to the contract has not fully performed what the contract demands, okay, as a condition of the payment, he cannot sue for the payment for what he has done. So the contract has to be indivisible and the payment can be demanded only on the completion of the contract. Then only this quantum merit things will happen. Okay, so the quantum merit can happen even for certain things for which the contract demands for the payment of it, and the condition is that it has to be fully done. Then only the things will happen, otherwise not. But where one party who has performed a part of his contract is prevented by other from completing it, he may sue for the quantum merit for the value what he has actually done. Suppose, for example, a person is supplying certain goods to another person, and suppose, for example, there was a contract of supplying 500 computers. Okay, so after 300 supplying 300 computers, the person has told that, okay, you stop supplying it now. Now, at least for this 300 computers, he is entitled to get his amount. So for 300 computers, he will ask the other party to give the amount, and at the same time, he can also claim for the damages because the other party is not now accepting the remaining 200 computers from him. Okay, so as much as earned, because he has actually supplied, so he is entitled to at least to the price of the computers which he has actually supplied. Okay, so the claim on the quantum merit arises when one party abandons the contract or accepts the work done by another under a void contract. A party in default may also sue on quantum merit for what he has done if the contract is divisible and other party had the benefit of the part which had been performed. Just now I have given you example. But if the contract is not divisible, the party at a fault cannot claim the value of what he has actually done. So that is, suppose for example, a person has supplied a given a car to another person, and it was contracted that the half of the money will be taken in advance and remaining half will be provided after suppose 1 month, and the delivery of the car is to be given now itself. So the delivery of the car has been done and the other person is enjoying the car for half the payment, and after 1 month the person approached him that for the remaining half, the other person told other person refused, and he told that you take away your car and give my money back, or even if you do not want to give my money back, then also it is okay, but take away your car, it is not worth. And meanwhile what he has done, he has accidented the car in such a way that the remaining value even could not be realized from the car itself. So in that case also there can be a suit of quantum merit because car is not divisible and he has actually utilized it. So not only he has to pay the damages for the accident of the car, rather the money which he has given well in advance is also will be forfeited, and at the same time the time for which he has actually used the car will be, he will be charged at the market rate of the taxi had he been taking it from the market. So this is what is called quantum merits, means as much as one has earned. So nobody is allowed to have an unjust enrichment in any of the ways. Okay, so this is all about your quantum merit, and this is regarding your remedies for breach of the contract as such. So if you have any question regarding this, you can ask me, or yeah, anyone, anything you would like to ask? I hope you are understanding these things properly. Shaurya?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Matang, Gautam, Tirthak, Khushi, you're getting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So guys, uh, the uh, the part of the let me just show you the syllabus up to where we have completed. Okay, just a moment. So the special contracts are now remaining. So even all the special contracts and all the sections are not in your syllabus, but we will definitely go through certain things which will make sense also and which will give you certain idea about what we have. Okay. So up to here we have done. So this is our 14th class, and up to 15th class it would have gone. Okay. So from here we have started. Okay. Types of contract, offer, acceptance, consideration, party to contract, free consent, contingent contract, quasi, discharge of contract, and remedies for breach of contract. Now, for this particular, you can say, part, we have 4 more classes to go for. And these indemnity, guarantee, pledge, principal agent relation, and right and obligation of principal agent, these all are related to your special contracts from section 124 to 238. Okay, so this comprise of not all the types of contract even. Bailment is not there. Pledge is there. Bailment is not there. Indemnity guarantee, pledge and bailment has to be there. So bailment is not there, only pledge is there. So we will study whatever it is. Okay, just a moment. Here we go. Okay, so this is the portion which is remaining. Actually, I forgot to share the slide. So this is the portion which is remaining. Okay, is that okay for particularly for your contract part? And then afterwards we will start the Law of Sale of Goods Act. Fine. Yeah. So let me take the attendance also, and then you will be free to go. Fine. So Chandresh Kumar.
Yes, sir.
Gaurav Agarwal, Gautam Godra, Harshit, Hemant Kumar,
Yes, sir.
Kartik Rajput, Kartike,
Yes,
Kushi
sir.
Shekhawat,
Present, sir.
Yes, sir.
Gabriel, Matang Sharma,
Yes,
Parth,
sir.
Prakash Chaudhary,
Present,
Ravinder Pal Singh,
Present, sir.
Rakesh Raikar, Ravi Raman, Rohan Modi,
Yes, sir.
Present, sir.
Pingle,
Sir.
Sandeep Singh Bhatti, Shaurya Dikshit,
Present, sir.
Arush Mudgal, and Tirtha Kirtibai Fultaria.
Yes, sir.
Fine.
Sir, one doubt.
Yeah, please ask.
Do you have any idea when would be the examination, like midterms or anything?
Yeah, I do not have any idea. You have to ask to your HOD for that.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, and please convey me also.
Sure, sir.
Okay, right,
Okay, sir.
guys. So
Yes, sir.
have a nice day.
Thank you,
Enjoy
sir.
the day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank
See
you,
you
sir.
tomorrow.